Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I put up a little bit of training footage earlier today, which you guys can check down in my feed and see. And a lot of people are always like, hey, how come you don't show your warm-ups? Why don't you film all your warm-ups? And it always makes me kind of laugh. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing. Let's do a little bit of crafting and let's talk about it. Why? Because I don't warm up. I think warm-ups are largely overrated, and I know that's going to come as a big surprise from a lot of people considering how much I talk about injury prevention, and a lot of people consider sufficient warm-ups to be an absolute requirement for injury prevention when lifting weights. I respectfully disagree. I think that is purely myth. I think it is perpetrated by people who are out of shape. Just because you lift weights doesn't mean that you have all the performance elements to be in shape. Just because some dude is ripped doesn't mean he's in shape. That actually has very little to do with it. So, cliff notes for people who don't like these longer videos. Yeah, basically people who get injured from not warming up before lifting heavy weights have piss poor, shitty fucking form, and they have no business trying to teach people how to lift. Or they're out of shape, meaning they have no flexibility and mobility because they don't train correctly, that they get hurt from not warming up. Sorry, but you shouldn't need to warm up for anything that's less than 90%, 85% at the most of your 1 rep max, like competition level max. It just isn't necessary. However, there are psychological benefits, and certain people enjoy warming up, and I'm not going to discredit those aspects of it. And that's a totally separate argument, separate point, and we'll get through all of that. All right, the whole thing with warming up. I love Jamie Lewis. I don't always agree with everything Jamie Lewis says. For those not familiar with him, he runs the Chaos and Pain blog and has been a 181-pound raw world record holder in powerlifting. Guy's a beast, absolute beast, with a rather crazy mentality. But he's one of those guys who basically says warm-ups are basically for pussies. And the way he says it, he goes, look, if you can deadlift 550 or 600 pounds, once you're warmed up and in a singlet and chalked up and everything else, that if you can't walk up and deadlift 500 pounds any day of the week with no warm-up in blue jeans and your street shoes and a t-shirt, you're out of shape. I think Jamie is dead on the fucking money with that. And I mean that. Like, guys are like, what do you mean out of shape? You're out of shape. I'm like, I can deadlift 500 pounds without a warm-up. You don't see me getting injured doing it, so if you can't do that, who's out of shape here? Probably outrun you in a 5K also. So, that being said, do I do warm-ups? I usually do 1 warm-up set on deadlifts. I usually do about 3 reps with 405 to assess where my strength is going to be, and if it feels heavy, I finish out the set with 405 and I call it quits for the day. And then I go to my peak weight. Doesn't matter what that peak weight is. I do 1 warm-up with 405. And I go from there. And that's only out of habit. I probably don't need to, other than if it's cold and it's early in the morning, and my back hasn't been compressed at all yet from walking around. I sometimes do that just to ensure that. But if you're warmed up from walking around through the day, or you've walked to your car or taken a 5-minute walk or anything, if you walked around for 5 minutes straight, you're warmed up enough to lift. You're warmed up enough to lift heavy. So I agree with Jamie on that. Yeah, you shouldn't need special clothing, and that's the same thing too. Guys who can't come in and hit 80% of their maxes without some sort of sleeves or wraps or special clothing or special shoes or warming up and doing warm-up sets, I'm sorry, you guys have major mobility issues. You have problems and you need to sort your body out. And I understand if you're a noob lifter, because noobs are out of shape. All right, if you're in your first month or 3 months of lifting, you are out of shape. No one's going to disagree with that, but you know that you're out of shape already. It's guys who've been lifting a year, 2 years, 5 years, who come in and they're like, well, I might get injured if I don't do these warm-up sets first. Really, why? I generally don't warm up for anything that I can do 8 reps with or more. That is my warm-up. I go straight to the work set. In fact, even if I'm doing a single set, if it's just a weight I can do for at least 8 reps, I just go straight to my work set. Only things under that do I do one warm-up. Now, I'm not talking about maxes or training maxes, because there's a neurological component to priming your nervous system to building up to maxes. You can get stronger with each set as you prime, and a lot of guys do that. They might try a 550 max on a lift, And they might go 405, they might go 450, they might go 500, 525, 535, 540, then try their 550 for a single. But the thing is, there's a difference between needing to warm up your connective tissue and joints versus priming your nervous system. You're getting it firing harder and harder and harder so that you can lift a maximum weight. You're priming your nervous system with anything that's rep work happens with the earlier reps. Meaning, sometimes when you get into a set, sometimes it starts to feel a little easier as you get a few reps in. Like sometimes the 4th or 5th rep will feel heavier than the 6th or 7th. That's because your nervous system is still priming. Your peripheral nervous system was warming up to the moderately heavy weight. You've already done it with the rep work. When you're doing singles, okay, there's a need for ramping to do that. But if you're doing higher rep work, there's no need for that. The earlier reps are priming the nervous system for you to get closer to failure as you get further in. But the whole idea there, so why do some people get hurt who don't do warm-ups? The difference here between weightlifting versus some field sports are a different thing. In field sports, you can get twisted and turned and moved in ways that are outside of your normal range of motion. That's a different animal. People get ACL tears, they get hamstring tears, all sorts of stuff. But a lot of those are caused by muscle imbalances themselves. If you are getting injured from lifting weights due to not warming up, you can't just come in and do a heavy set without feeling like you've pulled something. You've got muscle imbalances, you've got mobility issues, or your technique sucks. And generally, the guys you see who do that, who seem to need the warm-ups, or they get injured if they don't warm up, 9 times out of 10, they have bad mobility because they do a lot of partial reps. All right, the guys who tear their biceps easiest without warming up are guys who sit around doing partial curls, this shit. See that? My elbow's not locking at the bottom. That's bullshit. What do you think's going to happen? You're shortening up the muscle. You are not working it through the full range of motion in your weakest and not training the weakest part of the range of motion. So it's going to be weaker there. The muscle's going to be weaker there. It's going to be more prone to pulling and injury at the weakest point of the range of motion, particularly if you haven't trained it through that range of motion. You haven't trained it there. So yeah, you're going to be at a higher risk of injury, but it's not because you need to warm up. It's because you train like a fucking dumbass. And yeah, so when I see guys on YouTube doing that stuff, doing the partial curls and all these partial reps, these are the guys who get hurt. They're setting themselves up for injury because they're not training their joints to work to a full range of motion, and they're not training their muscles to get stronger and more flexible through the weakest point of their range of motion, usually where the muscle's being stretched. You know, the pecs get stretched the most at the bottom of a bench press, right? Everyone knows this. The bicep gets stretched the most at the bottom of a curl. If you don't train these to the deepest stretch in the range of motion, the muscle doesn't get as strong there. You only have about 15 degrees of carryover in performance from any range of motion that you train through. So if you stop 20 degrees short of any given range of motion on an exercise, that final 5 degrees, if you ever do a full rep, you're not going to get much carryover from the other training that you did for it. You have about 15 degrees of carryover. So people who aren't training these exercises through the full range of motion, when they do other full range of motion exercises, they accidentally do the full range of motion, they're most likely to get injured. And because they haven't warmed up the muscle, it's tighter than normal. And they haven't trained it to be strongest through there, or to be strong through that full range of motion. So they end up hurting themselves. They pull things, they get injured. But it's not because they didn't warm up. It's because they have piss poor training methods that made them weaker through the ranges of motion where they're most likely to get hurt, combined with not warming up. Had they just learned how to train correctly and actually do a curl all the way down, or do a bench press all the way down and pause on their chest like you're supposed to do, they wouldn't have gotten hurt without the warm-up. The other thing that gets people hurt without warm-ups are muscle imbalances. Yeah, guys who pull a hamstring in the gym doing something because they do it cold, it's because they had weak hamstrings and they were quad dominant. Maybe these guys should be doing more glute ham raises and less leg extensions. Maybe they should be doing more heavy deadlifts instead of hack squats with their legs stuck way out in front of them. If they had done these things, maybe they wouldn't have these problems. Same thing with shoulder joints. Maybe people need to train their rear delts more often. Maybe they need to not grip the bench press so wide. Again, muscle imbalances, poor training methods. This is what causes people to get injured, not the lack of warming up. It's only the lack of warming up becomes a crutch for people who have muscle imbalances or range of motion issues that they've created with bad training. that need that. Now, occasionally there can be injuries involved. It could also limit range of motion, but that's a totally different animal. That can contribute also, but again, you've got to ask, were those injuries caused by bad training methods, or were they caused by something else? Maybe outside the person's fault as far as the gym. But that's a different thing. For people who are healthy and in shape, they shouldn't need to do that. If their muscles are balanced and they're mobile, if you're not grabbing a 1 rep max here, guys, you shouldn't need to warm up for it. And if you do, and you're getting pulls by not doing so, it's time to address your training because you're out of shape or you have a problem. But someone who has an injury has a problem keeping them from being in full, complete shape also. They're not 100% healthy. They've got an injury with scar tissue and stuff in it. That's different. But they know that they have a physical issue. These are people who think that they're fit and in shape, who are getting pulls doing this. No, you need to learn how to train. You need to balance your body out better. Now, the psychological component is big too, because a lot of people believe that they need to warm up to not get hurt. It creates more confidence to warm up. Now, that being said, if you feel stronger and you're more confident in your training because you warm up and you're using it as a placebo for that, by all means carry on, as long as it doesn't interfere with your time and you don't mind spending the extra time in the gym. But a lot of people need to remember, a lot of people are spending 15 extra minutes in the gym sometimes warming up, not doing anything productive. Now, if you need it for psychological reasons, that's fine. Carry on. Don't let me stop you. Because it's not really hurting you either. It's not going to hurt you to do some warm-up sets unless you're warming up so much that you impede your performance. If it's impeding your performance on your peak sets, that might be harmful to you. Now, the other thing to consider is that a lot of people enjoy spending more time in the gym. Not everyone wants to spend hours and hours in the gym. Some people want to get in, get their work done, get out. Even I enjoy training. I enjoy lifting, but I don't enjoy sitting around warming up. I'm in there to lift some weights. I like lifting some heavy weight. I enjoy it. It's fun. But I don't enjoy warm-ups. So since I don't enjoy warm-ups, they're not fun to me. I don't do them because I know they're not necessary. But some people genuinely enjoy doing their warm-ups. That's different. If you're doing it because you enjoy it, anything that you do in the gym that you enjoy doing, that doesn't interfere with your life and doesn't hurt your progress, continue to do. You know why? Because if you enjoy doing the things that you do at the gym, you're more likely to be consistent. You're more likely to keep showing up. You're more likely to get long-term results. So, if you enjoy doing warm-ups, don't stop doing them. Don't let me tell you that you shouldn't be doing something that you enjoy doing that's not harming you in any way. You're doing extra physical activity that you enjoy in the gym. Very rarely is this a bad thing. That's usually a positive thing. So I don't want people to think that I'm saying anything negative about you if you like doing it. If you'd like doing it, carry on, guys. Do what you want to do there. Have fun. Get in, train. But if you don't enjoy doing warm-ups, you don't want to waste time doing them, you shouldn't need to do them. As long as you are using good technique, training full range of motion on all your lifts, you have good mobility, and you don't have muscle imbalances, you don't need to actually warm up to lift weights. Again, as long as you've trained all those muscles to be strong through their full range of motion, train the joints to be strong through their full range of motion, this is generally not an issue, beyond just needing to walk for a few minutes to get your body nice and warm and your spine compressed a little bit. I wouldn't recommend setting up a weight room in your bedroom, jumping right out of bed on a winter morning, immediately out of bed and jumping under a squat rack and start, cranking out 400-pound sets. I wouldn't say to do that, but there's a difference between that and what most people do. Most people are getting up, walking around, drinking some coffee, eating some breakfast, maybe getting in their car, driving to the gym. They're warmed up. They're not ice cold out of bed with an uncompressed spine. Totally different animal. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.